In this tutorial I'm going to show you how you can make your own brynux stick. Now this isn't for the light-hearted. You would have already used a Linux distro such as Ubuntu or Fedora, and you would have already made your own live USB sticks. If you haven't done that, don't try this tutorial because it'll just confuse you. So go to our tutorials page, click on download, and that'll take you to how to make a brynux stick page. Minimum that you'll need is an 8 gig stick, and you'll also need a running version of Brynux or Fedora, either installed on a computer or running live on a stick with a persistent overlay, for example a brynux stick. Of course, if you use another distro like Ubuntu or anything like that, you'll probably understand what I'm saying here, and you can just convert it into your own distro's language. So the first thing you need to do is download the ISO. Of course, i686 is the most compatible, but x86-64 is the 64-bit version that'll run on all modern computers, and is just a lot nicer to use and faster to use. So to download those, all you have to do is just right-click on them and go Save Link As, and go and save it off into a folder. While that's downloading, you can go and install the extra tools you'll need. So I'll just bring up a terminal and show you what that is. So if I just copy this here, I should actually already have this stuff installed. Well, maybe I won't, but let's have a look. So here's my terminal. If I just paste that in there and go like that, that one's already installed. Oh, I haven't got that installed. There we go. So it's going to install that stuff for us. It's only 4.6 meg, that's nothing, away it goes, and it's looking good. And there we go, that's finished. So the next thing we need to do is we can actually test it, because now we've installed QEMU. You can actually just run it as a virtual machine without installing it to USB stick. Yeah, I might as well give it a go, just see how it works. It won't go that fast, but let's have a look. So if I go back to my terminal over here and just paste that into there, and here comes the window, and it says Start Brynux. It'll take a little while. There it goes. But you get the gist, is it will finally end up at a Brynux login screen. Let's go back to our list. Right, now here's the important stuff. We want to partition our USB stick, and this is a bit different from other live USBs because Brynux actually uses a Windows partition to store its downloads folder, its documents folder, and the reason for this is so you can share it between Windows, Mac, and Android. Another difference to normal live USB sticks is the Brynux Active OS partition is actually the second partition and not the first one. And again, the reason for this is actually for Android. So Android only recognizes one of the partitions on your stick, so and it's only the first one, so we have to move our shared items into the first partition. Right, so firstly, we see if the stick's already mounted, and I know it is, so I want to get rid of that. So there it is there. I'm just going to unmount it by going U-mount, and that's. Now it's unmounted. Now I open it with fdisk, SDB, and I can just press P to show me what's already on it. I know it's got just one big FAT32 partition, so I'll delete it just by pressing D. Now it's gone. Now I'll create a new partition by going N, and I'll just choose the defaults. Yes, I want it to be primary. Yes, I want it to be #1 partition, first sector right at the beginning. Now remember that this is the archive or the USB drive partition, which we want to be around 10 gig. So I'll actually manually type the size in. So I'll go plus 10 gig and enter, and that's cool, that's just written it. And now I'll change its type from Linux to FAT32 or VFAT. So I go T for type and then B for FAT32. There we go. Now I need to create a new partition, so I go N and I choose the defaults again. Primary, second partition, first sector default, and last sector default. I know it's a 16 gig drive, so I'm pretty much just saying use the rest of the space for the brynux-os partition. And there we go, and I need to change its type, so I go T, and by default it chooses the second partition, and I know that B is FAT32, and I also need to make it active. It's going to be the boot partition, so I go A, and default is 2, that's correct. Now before I write it to the USB stick, we press P to print, and that looks right. The boot type partition is the second partition, so I press W to write it to the USB stick. So now it's writing out to the USB stick. The next thing we need to do is just do a quick format of both partitions. There we go, that's finished. I'll jump back over to our window over here, and we can just copy this command that I've got down here. Format both of them with make file system vfat, and just copy that line there, paste it in there, paste. There we go, it's finished formatting both of those. And now we actually write the ISO to disk. Actually, I'm going to skip that, and I'll change the order of these around because it takes quite a while for it to write to disk. So what I'll do is I'll just make the folders first. Now I know it's a big long command. It's not complex though, it's just making directories and mounting the drive. So just copy that whole line there, go back to our terminal and paste it. And that's good, it's finished. And now we'll actually write the brynux ISO to your new brynux stick. So here we're using live CD tools, which is going live CD ISO to disk. I'm doing unencrypted home, it just makes it a bit faster. The overlay size is 3.8 gig. And the label is brynux OS, and I'm resetting the MBR. It just seems to be a good thing to do to make sure it boots properly. So I'll copy that and I'll paste it over here and press enter. Whoops. Oh, I'm in the wrong place. CD tilde user downloads. Try that again. Right, so now it's checking your USB stick to make sure it's got enough space and so forth. It's just said it's okay, and it will take this a little while. It takes a while to write the persistent overlay, but when it's finished, you'll have a working brynux stick. So that's how easy or hard it is to create a brynux stick.